Do you believe in aliens? If there was ever an incident that left the military in a panic, the government silent, and witnesses gagged for decades, it was the Rendlesham Forest Incident. Britain's Roswell. In late December 1980, in the middle of a cold night, strange lights appeared. An unidentified object landed in the forest. And American soldiers witnessed something they would never forget. Was it a real UFO? A top-secret military experiment? Or something even more terrifying? All will be revealed in today's episode of 2D Mystery, where the truth is always hidden behind a veil of mystery. Are you ready? Don't let the like button be lonely. Don't let the share button wither. And don't let the subscribe button wait for you forever. Night falls over Rendlesham. December 1980. The cold air, like a sharp blade of wind, blew through the leaves, making the entire Rendlesham Forest, located quietly in the county of Suffolk, eastern England, shiver. Mist crept through the tall trees like ghosts, step by step tightening the darkness. The night sky was covered by a thick layer of clouds. No moon, no stars. Only a deep black like a bottomless pit. In the distance, the sound of the iron gates of RAF Woodbridge Air Base closing echoed in the thick air. The yellow lights from the watchtowers reflected on the fog, creating magical streaks of light that seemed to move. No one knew that night, in the middle of this seemingly peaceful deep forest, one of the most mysterious events in British military history was about to begin. About 2 a.m., Sergeant Jim Penniston and Corporal John Burroughs were on duty near the southeastern fence of the base, where it met Rendlesham Forest. They were drinking hot coffee and chatting to stay awake when a blinding flash of light suddenly tore through the night. It was not a flare, nor was it an aircraft. It was a cold white light, flickering and seemed to move between the trees, something that was almost impossible for any military vehicle at the time. Did you see that? Penniston asked, his eyes narrowing. Yes, and I was hoping it was something I could understand. Burroughs replied, his hand already on his gun. The base's alarms were flashing. The radar had registered no intruders, but something was happening. The atmosphere had changed. It felt like the forest had stopped breathing. Penniston gave the order to leave the compound, moving further into the light. 3 men, including military policeman Ed Cabansack, were dispatched to investigate. On the way, the radios began to crackle. The sound was crackling. The signal was intermittent, as if an invisible hand was choking the communication system. As they entered the woods, all was suddenly unnaturally quiet. No more insects, no more owls, just the timid footsteps on the rotting leaves and the eerie light growing closer. Penniston later recalled, "I can't explain the feeling. It was as if time had slowed down or ceased to exist. My senses were distorted. I could hear my own heart beating, beat by beat, in the eerie silence." When they arrived, they found a triangular or wedge-shaped metal object, about the size of a car, hovering a few feet above the ground. There were no wheels, no doors, no sound of any engine. Only a single light emanated from the hull, blue, red, yellow, moving rhythmically as if alive. The air around them was thick with electricity. The hair on their hands stood on end. Their watches and compasses began to run wild or stopped. Penniston could not believe his eyes, so he approached and touched the hull. The surface was icy cold, impossibly smooth, and on it, strange geometric symbols were engraved, like ancient hieroglyphics, but not in any known language. The moment he touched it, a flash of images flashed through his mind, like memories that did not belong to him. Maps, codes, planets, and blinding light. Suddenly, the object glowed brighter, then vanished without a trace, leaving only deep footprints in the ground and scorched trees in an arc. Penniston and Burroughs could only stare at each other, not understanding what had just happened. They returned to base, shaking. Their watches had stopped. When they looked back, nearly 45 minutes had passed, but none of them had felt that long. Just one night, one moment, but it would set off a chain of events that would last decades, leaving governments silent, military officers baffled, and UFO investigators awake many sleepless nights trying to solve this mystery deep in the British jungle. And that was just the beginning. Date 2, the light returns. December 27, 1980, less than 48 hours after the first encounter. Rendlesham Forest seemed different. The soldiers on duty that night, who had laughed about UFOs as a joke, were now silent, their faces serious, and, above all, avoided mentioning the previous day's incident as if afraid something was listening. No one spoke, but they all felt the same thing. It wasn't over. Milky Way, and then the light appeared again. Around 9 p.m., the strange light was reported near the eastern woods again, this time brighter, flashing, as if trying to attract attention. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, deputy commander of RAF Woodbridge, who was a stern man and not easily swayed by myths, decided to investigate himself to put the rumors to rest within the military. He led a patrol of security guards and technicians, armed with radios, Geiger counters, flashlights, tape recorders, and detailed maps of the area. They headed into the woods where the light awaited. Halt held a cassette recorder in his hand, which would become the legendary audio evidence of what was to come, later known as the Halt tape. Video cassette, the tape began. We are about 300 meters from the scene last night. The radiation detector is registering a slight increase. 0.1, 0.2 milliroentgen. This is unusual. Wait, do you see that? A red light moving between the trees. It's not flashing like an airplane light. It's moving in a different way. It's splitting into three. My God, I've never seen anything like this. In the darkness, glowing objects, spheres, floated in the middle of the forest, moving smoothly as if not obeying gravity. They made no sound, but every time they moved, electronic devices were jammed, compasses spun, and cameras went blank, unable to capture images. A sphere suddenly flew towards them at an unimaginable speed, then stopped just a few dozen meters away from the team, hovering in the air as if observing. Everyone stood still, their hearts pounding. No one spoke. In a split second, the sphere shot up into the sky and disappeared as if it had never existed. But the night sky did not let them rest for long. Above, they saw a giant, silent, triangular object with a red flashing light at the tip and white lights on the two sides, hovering in silence, not generating an engine, not causing wind, not shaking the air. Warning, the radiation measuring device vibrated strongly. The radiation level exceeded 3 times normal. One of the technicians whispered, eyes wide, "I don't think we're looking at a military device. This isn't ours. It isn't American. It can't be Soviet either." They went deeper. The light disappeared, then reappeared in the distance, near an empty field. And then the strangest thing happened. A column of light from the object in the sky was shining straight down on the field, as if it was scanning or detecting some signal on the ground. Halt recorded anxiously. The column of light is shining straight down. There are probably 3 spots in the forest that are being hit. We're seeing clearly. It's not a searchlight. What is this? The last of the lights faded into the distance. But the patrol was not relieved. They returned to the base in silence, their minds reeling with hundreds of unanswered questions. DNA the next morning, at the location where the light fell, people discovered 3 circular depressions about 4 centimeters deep, forming an equilateral triangle, exactly as Peniston had described earlier. The magnetic field measurement system around the area gave abnormal results. The compass rotated erratically. Animals in the area showed unusual agitation over the next few days. The grass in the glowing area withered rapidly, while the surrounding trees remained green. Exclamation mark! But what shocked everyone the most was that when the officers reported to the British Ministry of Defense, all the information was noted down, stamped confidential, and no one mentioned it again. All units were required to maintain absolute silence. The tapes were hidden. The investigation notes disappeared, and witnesses began to be invited privately to discuss. The second night at Rendlesham Forest was not just an unusual appearance of light. It was a claim that something was observing, interacting, and possibly not from Earth. But what happened next really made this Britain's Roswell. The hidden tapes, the disappearing military evidence, After a second night of turmoil, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt returned to base, sat alone in his office, and listened quietly to the 18-minute tape recording that had just captured the surreal scene in Rendlesham Forest. Every heavy breathing, every panicked sentence from the patrol, every description of orbs of light and rays from above, everything was recorded. But as Halt prepared to send his official report to his superiors, he realized he had entered a forbidden zone, a zone where the truth was no longer acceptable. Receipt the strange report Unexplained lights. On January 13, 1981, Lieutenant Colonel Halt wrote a memo to the British Ministry of Defense (MOD), summarizing the events that had occurred between the night of December 26th and 28th. The title was simple: Unexplained lights. No UFOs, no extraterrestrials. There was no provocative word in the report, but hidden behind the careful language was a truth colder than any winter wind in Rendlesham Forest. 3 incidents: flying lights, high radiation, jamming equipment, and a giant triangular glowing object hovering above them. All were in the memo, albeit rewritten in a restrained manner. Yet the report was quickly ignored. Video cassette, the mysterious disappearance of the original copies. When independent investigators from Britain and the United States later sought access to the data, the original tapes, the site maps, the patrol logs, the night photographs, and the radiation measuring equipment, they found an ironic thing. There are no records. They don't exist. They're unknown, or they've been destroyed. An anonymous former Army officer who worked at the British Ministry of Defense confirmed. I saw the Rendlesham files in the vault. Then one day, they disappeared. No trace. Someone erased them. Radio, Halt tape, the only evidence that remained. Fortunately, the tapes that Lieutenant Colonel Halt took with him that night were not in the official archives, and he had made his own backups. This recording, now public, remains one of the rare pieces of UFO evidence recorded directly by a high-ranking military officer, right at the scene. Pushpin the most shocking excerpt. It was glowing red, moving towards us, stopping, splitting into 3. This is not any technology we have. I am sure of it. Zippermouth faced silence, control, and being watched. After the incident, many soldiers present on the night of December 27th began to be called in for questioning, often by strangers in uniforms of unknown units. Witness Larry Warren, a young soldier present on the second night, said he was taken to a closed room, injected with drugs, and told to forget all memories. Warren's testimony would later cause a public outcry, but was also sought to be smeared by many forces. Another witness, Steve Longero, claimed to have seen a glowing metal object landing in the middle of the woods and was warned. If you tell, it won't just be the end of your career. Open file folder what's being covered up. Why wasn't an incident that occurred in a guarded military area taken seriously? Why weren't the jamming, the increased radiation, and the unexplained light phenomena enough to trigger an official government investigation? And most of all, why did the internal documents disappear as if they had never existed? Man detective, when civilian investigators get involved. A few years later, journalists and UFO experts began to retrace their steps through the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. They discovered Rendlesham's name was redacted from many government records. A series of documents related to radar activity and air traffic logs on the night of December 26th to 28th are no longer available. Civilian pilots who reported seeing strange lights in the Suffolk area were also asked to keep quiet. Something happened clearly, violently, and beyond human control. Brain, so what really happened that night? A top-secret military technology test? A UFO crash? Or first contact? Chapter 3 ends with a heavy and unsettling feeling, because when the most powerful people choose to remain silent, the answer can be more terrifying than any theory. The triangle arm, the strange drawing, and the lie of memory. One gloomy morning in late December 1980, Sergeant Jim Penniston woke up with a sore arm and a strange pattern burned into his skin. 3 small triangles arranged into a larger triangle, right in the middle of his right palm. But what was even stranger was, he had no memory of how he got it. No accident, no collision, no burn. No one else had ever had it. The memory was gone. It was as if someone or something had stolen it. Red triangle pointed up mysterious symbol. 3 burnt triangles. Peniston was no rookie. He had served at several U.S. air bases before arriving at RAF Bentwaters. As a highly trained man, he was not prone to hallucinations or panic attacks. But after the encounter on the night of December 26th, he felt a strange, trance-like state. He wrote in his diary, "I touched the object. There was no seam. The surface was smooth, cold like metal, but not metal as I had ever seen it. And in the middle of it were 3 glowing blue triangles. I touched it lightly, and then I don't remember anything else." Cyclone lost time in forgotten diaries. After leaving the scene, Peniston found that his watch was nearly 45 minutes behind the time it actually was. The communications equipment was heavily jammed during the entire recording of the video and audio, a common phenomenon in UFO cases. When he returned, he spent the night writing down the entire experience in a black notebook. But strangely, the next morning, he had no memory of what he had written. It was only when he looked back at the notebook that he realized he had drawn the object, a triangle with strange symbols surrounding it, brain-hidden memories and recurring dreams. For years, Jim Peniston was haunted by the same dreams. A flying ship hovering in the middle of the forest, tall creatures, piercing eyes, and a whisper that seemed to come from inside his head. They came. They were always here. They are the future. In 1994, under the influence of hypnotherapy, Jim made his first shocking revelation. "I didn't just see the ship. I communicated with it. Not with words, but with thoughts. A stream of information, like data, was transmitted into my head. Pager, binary string, message from beyond imagination." During a sleepwalking night, Peniston sat up and wrote 16 pages of zeros and ones in an old black notebook. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to write it down. Decades later, a team led by Linda Moulton Howe and cryptography expert Nick Sisk decoded this binary string. The results stunned the world. Satellite antenna message, translated from binary code. Net, copy, edit, exploration of humanity. Continuous for a planetary advance. Origin, 52 degrees 9 minutes, 42.532 seconds north. 13 degrees 13 minutes, 12.69 seconds west. Year, 8100. Exploring humanity, continuous for planetary advance. Originated from, coordinates off the coast of Ireland. Year, 8100. World map, departure point, from the future. The coordinates 52 degrees 09, 42.532 inch in, 13 degree 13, 12.69. W lead to the western sea of Ireland, where there are no islands, no military bases, just water, reefs, and mystery. The message claims to come from the future, the year 8100, a time when human civilization has completely changed. But the strange thing is, if that is true, why send the signal to 1980? And why choose a military forest in England? Magnifying glass-tilted left fact or fiction? Many skeptics believe that the whole story about binary strings and symbols is just imagination or psychological trauma. However, they cannot explain. Why was the triangular drawing on Peniston's hand noted by other soldiers at the time of the event? Why do the coordinates and years in the binary code match the theory of ancient PowerPoints on Earth? And why, after decades, does Peniston still tell the same story, with details that have never changed? Flying saucer, if it is a message, then who is it for? Maybe the message is not for Jim Peniston. Maybe it is not for the people of 1980, but to trigger a chain of events later when technology is advanced enough to decode it. A signal placed in the middle of a cold pine forest for only one person to bring it back and wait for the moment of history to call. Milky Way, they are always here. A whisper in the forest that night. The words that Peniston heard in his mind are still the most haunting. They're always here. Not they come, but always here. Could it be that what humans call UFOs, aliens, are not creatures from Mars, but some form of space-time existence that has intervened in human history since time immemorial? The chapter ends with Jim Peniston's gaze turned towards Rendlesham Forest, which is still there, dark and silent. But beneath the ground, in the sky, is there something still watching, waiting, and repeating? The Watcher, stranger in uniform without badges. 3 days after the Christmas Eve incident, when the storm seemed to have subsided, another wave began to rise silently. Not strange lights, not the sound of metal ringing in the night forest, but men with no names, no titles, no origins, quietly appeared and took control of the whole story. Small airplane, the black helicopters, the nightmare begins. On December 29, 1980, personnel at RAF Bentwaters began to report the presence of unmarked helicopters. They hovered over the Rendlesham Forest area with their engines muted, not at all like the usual military aircraft. A radar officer said, "They came and the radar didn't pick them up. It was as if they weren't in the normal three-dimensional space." Bust in silhouette, the man in military gear who didn't belong to any army. A few hours later, 3 unmarked gray jeeps rolled into the base. The men who got out were tall men dressed as military officers, but their uniforms had no insignia, no names, and most importantly, no nationality. Sergeant Adrian Bustinza, who was at the scene, recalled, "I was asked to escort them to the command area, but when I asked who they were, the only answer was a cold, 'You don't need to know.' Card file box, the order of silence, and the bizarre interrogation. All the participants in the incident, from Officer Peniston, Burroughs to Halt, were called into a closed room for an information exchange. But it was not the internal military briefing they had imagined. Burroughs recalled, "We were interrogated like prisoners of war. They kept asking the same questions over and over again. They wanted me to say it was a hallucination or it was just a lighthouse beacon. Some were threatened with being sent back to the United States, demoted, or discharged if they didn't keep quiet. Syringe injections and memory gaps. Another scary detail. Peniston said he was injected with an unknown drug during interrogation. After the injection, he began to feel disoriented and couldn't remember the entire time of a UFO encounter. Dreams of triangles, strange whispers, and binary messages only began to appear afterward, as if someone had unlocked or locked a door in his brain. Video camera the tapes were taken away, and a massive erasure. In the following days, all of the base's video footage, audio recordings, and internal reports related to the incident were seized. Several lower-ranking officers saw the man in the black suit, believed to be from an unidentified U.S. agency, personally took the documents out of the headquarters. An anonymous technician said, "I processed a videotape from an infrared camera at the northern checkpoint. It recorded a flash of light appearing in the forest and a round metal object reflecting heat. 3 hours later, the tape disappeared from the warehouse. Firecracker, who controls the truth? The question is, why did the Americans interrogate British soldiers in a British base in the heart of England? Why was the event so carefully covered up when all the witnesses claimed they were not hallucinating? And where did those men in stateless uniforms come from? The government? A secret organization? Or a force we have never heard of? Man detected the appearance of men in black, people outside the government. Later, many UFO researchers suspected that the soldiers' interrogators could be members of a secret organization called Majestic 12, rumored to be the group that runs the cover-up of aliens at an international level. There is also the theory that they were men in black, not exactly people, but artificial entities created to erase traces of alien phenomena time. Locked in unplanned encounter? If the Rendlesham incident was indeed a contact, it was not planned. The fury and panic of surveillance organizations suggested that an unannounced visit might have occurred, and they raced to cover their tracks. But it was too late. Peniston had touched the ship. Burroughs had seen it. Halt had recorded it. And Rendlesham, once a desolate forest, had become the nexus of a mystery no one could fully control. Paperclip life after the event. The watched, the silenced. Many witnesses reported being followed for years after the event. Phones were tapped, letters censored, and some were even prevented from publishing books or appearing on television. Some lost their jobs. Others abruptly changed their stories. And some, like Officer Burroughs, were denied medical coverage because their mission records were permanently sealed. Puzzle piece: is the truth still hidden somewhere, or is it being withheld by someone? The chapter ends with a question that should make us all shudder. If there is an organization powerful enough to silence military witnesses, alter memories, and erase official documents, who are they, and what are they hiding? Pillars of Light, the second night incident, and the strange recording. If Christmas Eve was the beginning of the horror, then the night of December 28th was the undeniable confirmation that something beyond human understanding had indeed appeared. That night, the deputy commander of the base, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, a rational man who had dismissed UFO reports from his subordinates, personally entered the forest to investigate. But instead of dispelling the rumors, he recorded a classic audio evidence in the history of world ufology. Candle, Strange Light in the East Woods, the Fateful Patrol. At around 2 a.m. on December 28, 1980, Lieutenant Colonel Halt was informed that strange lights appeared in the Rendlesham Woods, near the area where the previous incident had occurred. He decided not to sit in the office anymore. This time, he would personally investigate, bringing along a small team including security guards, radiation measuring equipment, and a cassette recorder. The investigation begins. Studio microphone, the legendary recording, 18 minutes of the unexplainable. The recording later became known as the Halt tape, one of the first real UFO evidences recorded by a senior officer while the event was happening live. On the tape, we hear footsteps, nervous breathing, radio static, and, most importantly, Lieutenant Colonel Halt himself describing the strange event unfolding before his eyes. Quoting him on the tape, "That light is there again, moving, glowing object, approaching, white light. Oh my God, it's split into several parts now. 4 parts. It looks like eyes. A column of light just shot down to the ground just a few hundred meters away." The group stood frozen in the dark forest, surrounded by columns of light shooting straight down from the sky, with no source, no sound. Satellite antenna of the device was chaotic. The radiation meter fluctuated abnormally. As they approached the area where the object had landed on the night of the 25th, the Geiger counter radiation meter began to vibrate continuously. The needle only fluctuated abnormally at 3 locations on the ground, exactly where Peniston had described the base of the object. Strangely, outside that area, the radiation levels were completely normal. It was as if only the place where the object had landed was affected. Halt himself said, "We don't know exactly what it was, but the measuring device clearly recorded a difference at 3 depressions in the ground." Ice Cube, the air changed. An unusual silence fell. As the light hovered above them, all surrounding sounds suddenly disappeared. No wind, no night birds, no leaves falling. It was as if the entire forest had been placed in an invisible soundproof cage. One soldier recounted, "It felt like the sound had been sucked out of the air. My ears were still working, but there was nothing to hear. It was as if the world had been silenced." This phenomenon, known to UFO researchers as the acoustic dead zone effect, often occurs before or during encounters with unidentified flying objects. Shooting star triangular object. Not mysterious, but too real. Halt and his team saw with their own eyes a black triangular object, glowing red at the top, hovering in midair. It moved in an inexplicable trajectory, angled instead of curved, flying without making a sound. The object then emitted a bright light, then shot away at supersonic speed. No explosion, no heat or shockwave. Telescoped 3 objects approaching the radar tower, light piercing the sky. After leaving the forest, the Halt saw 3 smaller bright objects flying in a triangular formation across the sky. From the audio, 1 was flying toward us, 2 were further away. Now, there was a beam of light shooting straight down near the radar tower, like a lightsaber stuck into the ground. No one knows what that light actually was, but it was unlike any known military lighting device. Video cassette, the audio tape, was cut short. The missing evidence? The published audio is only about 18 minutes long. But many who have heard the original version say the full version is over 40 minutes long. The missing section is said to show the object landing again, and possibly even making contact. If that's true, then who cut the rest? And why? Scroll from recording to vow of silence. The transformation of an officer. The surprising thing is, Lieutenant Colonel Halt initially did not believe in UFOs. He was a conservative, placing absolute faith in military procedure and order. But after that night, he was the one who submitted the official memo, noting that an unidentified flying object had been present at Rendlesham. Years later, Halt said, "I can no longer keep quiet. I had seen it. I had recorded it. I did not know what it was, but it was not from our world. Brain tape recording, a door to the truth, or just a decoy." Some believe that the tape is solid evidence of the presence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Some are skeptical, saying that it is just a permitted part disclosure to distract the public for what really happened. And there are others cynical to the core who say that Halt was just a pawn recording what he was allowed to record. Envelope with thorough, a memorandum that shaped history. This chapter concludes with one of the most important official documents in UFO history. Memorandum for the Ministry of Defense. A one-page report by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, detailing the events of December 28, 1980. The document remained secret until 1983, when it was released through the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, and from that moment on, Rendlesham was no longer a legend, but an open case. The alien code, the binary mystery of Jim Penniston. As the night wore on, the strange events left a deep impression on the minds of those present in Rendlesham Forest. Although physical evidence, such as traces on the ground, disturbed radiation measuring equipment, and Lieutenant Colonel Halt's recordings were recorded, one of the strangest pieces of evidence that the soldiers could never forget was the binary sequence that Jim Penniston, one of the security officers, recorded during the approach to the unidentified flying object. The terrifying encounter. On the night of December 26, 1980, when Jim Penniston and his team approached the strange object in Rendlesham Forest, they were confronted by an unidentified object, a flying saucer that had landed on the ground. Before the other security officers could get close, Penniston stopped, unable to take his eyes off the strange scene. The object, this was not a UFO of the usual shape that he had seen in reports. It was more like a machine that if it weren't for the strange signs, Penniston would have thought it was a military incident. But it wasn't. The way the object glowed dimly and the beam of light flickering from within made him feel that something was extremely unusual. After everyone dispersed to investigate, Jim Penniston decided to move closer. And that's when something strange happened. Binary numbers, contact with invisible messages. While approaching the object, Penniston touched the surface of the flying saucer with his hand. Suddenly, an event that he couldn't explain happened. A strange light was emitted from the object, and on its surface, a series of binary numbers appeared right before his eyes. With great excitement, Penniston quickly pulled a small notebook from his pocket and wrote down the binary numbers he saw. The number sequence was 16 digits long, arranged in a very orderly and consistent manner. 100100100 1 100 110 100 11 0100 1000 100 111. For Penniston, it was an unmistakable message, a message from an alien civilization. Although he did not know the exact meaning, he clearly felt that this sequence of numbers was not random. It had a profound purpose, unsolvable mystery, searching in the dark. Immediately after leaving the area, Penniston brought the binary numbers he had written down to his superiors. However, military experts were unable to determine the meaning of these numbers because they did not match any military codes or conventional coding systems. What made things even more mysterious was that, upon returning to base and examining it again, Penniston realized that the numbers could be some kind of code linked to outer space. This theory had never been accepted in the military, but Penniston could not help but believe what he had seen. Over the following months, Penniston could not stop thinking about these numbers. How could they have appeared so unexpectedly on an alien object? And why could they reflect an indecipherable message that even the top scientists could not figure out? Deciphering binary numbers, uncovering the horrible truth. A year later, Penniston decided to continue pursuing this mystery. He used his cryptanalysis skills to try to decipher the binary numbers, even though he was not an expert in cryptography. After trying different decoding formulas, he began to notice something strange. The binary numbers that Penniston recorded were not random, but when converted into ASCII code, these numbers became a clear message. This message was not ordinary letters, but spoke of a cosmic existence, a civilization that did not come from Earth. The decoded message opened a new door in UFO research. Exploration of humanity. Contact. Give US your answers now. We will communicate with you. Decoding or manipulation. After Penniston announced the decoded message, a wave of controversy began to arise. Some UFO researchers believed that this was the call of an alien civilization, while skeptics said that this was just a coincidence or even a military trick. Meanwhile, those involved in the Rendlesham incident that day believed that they were manipulated by forces they could not understand. So is the binary number sequence that Penniston recorded really a communication from outer space, or just part of a military psychological experiment? The key to unlocking the door to discovery, an unsolved solution. To this day, more than 4 decades have passed. The mystery surrounding Jim Penniston's binary number sequence has not been officially solved. But one thing is certain. Those numbers have changed the world's view of the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. More than just a story of a strange encounter, Rendlesham is now a mysterious event containing an unsolved message. And this still makes researchers UFOs around the world are racking their brains for answers. The journey of exposure. Is Rendlesham the starting point? Ever since the Rendlesham Forest Incident in late 1980, the world has been debating what really happened in that mysterious forest. Some believe it was an isolated incident, but others believe it was part of a larger chain of events that opened up questions about the existence of aliens and the possibility of contact between us and extraterrestrial civilizations. But there is one thing that those involved in the incident still cannot ignore: the strange sensations, inexplicable signs and clues that keep appearing, forming an incomplete story. Was Rendlesham really the beginning of a long journey to explore the mysteries of the universe? Echoes from space. What happened next? The Rendlesham incident was not the only event that caught the attention of UFO researchers in the 1980s. In the following years, a series of encounters strange, with unidentified flying objects and unexplained tracks appearing all over the world. However, Rendlesham Forest remains one of the most notable, and the name Rendlesham has become an icon in the world of UFO research. Just a few months after Rendlesham, in 1981, another UFO encounter occurred in Birmingham, England. Witnesses reported seeing a glowing spherical object hovering in the sky for several minutes before disappearing. Traces of radiation were also found on the ground where the object landed, similar to what happened at Rendlesham. This has led researchers to ask, could these be consecutive events in a series of encounters that humans themselves cannot understand? Contact. A shift in human thinking. Events like Rendlesham not only changed the way people viewed UFOs, but also changed the way they thought about the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. In the years that followed, government agencies began investigating UFO incidents, and the study of extraterrestrial signals became an important part of the search for extraterrestrial life. However, these efforts still could not explain the strange phenomena that people like Jim Penniston, John Burroughs, and Charles Halt witnessed at Rendlesham. Was this event simply a coincidence, or was it truly a turning point in human history, opening the door to contact with the extraterrestrial universe? One of the biggest questions is whether Rendlesham Forest was really the beginning of a decades-long journey of contact, and whether the world was facing a door it had never imagined before. The ominous silence. The cover-up reports. After the Rendlesham incident, researchers and eyewitnesses were repeatedly met with an ominous silence from the government and military. While some documents were made public, many remained secret. Eyewitness accounts were allegedly edited or deleted to avoid causing panic. This has led UFO researchers to suspect that the Rendlesham incident was not just a random event, but could have been part of a larger strategy of an organized contact plan. This also leads to another hypothesis. Are governments and military forces aware of the existence of aliens, but keeping it secret to avoid causing panic? If so, Rendlesham may be just a small part of a larger program by governments around the world to test different approaches to contact and communicate with extraterrestrial civilizations. Are we just experimental creatures? A question that has been on the minds of many UFO researchers is whether humans are truly the only ones in the universe, or if we are just experimental creatures in a larger study of extraterrestrial civilizations. From the radioactive traces to the strange binary numbers recorded by Jim Penniston, everything points to a strange relationship between humans and extraterrestrial entities. Some researchers believe that UFOs may be observing and testing humans as part of a centuries-long research program. And the Rendlesham incident, for all its strangeness, may have been just one part of a larger experiment, where humans are being tested by civilizations we cannot identify. The final key, the future of contact. Although the Rendlesham incident occurred more than 4 decades ago, the story is far from over. Clues continue to be uncovered, and testimonies from those who were involved in the event are still widely shared. Many believe that the Rendlesham incident was just the beginning on a long journey of alien contact. UFO experts today continue to study subsequent events, such as the Rendlesham contacts in other parts of the world. Could humans be closer to formal contact with alien civilizations in the future? Or is Rendlesham just the beginning, and we are entering a new era of space exploration? These questions remain unanswered, but one thing is certain. The search for truth is not over, and the vast universe out there certainly has much more than we can explain. From Rendlesham to spaceflight, are we ready? The Rendlesham Forest Incident was not just a moment in UFO history, but the beginning of a long journey that has led us to the endless questions about the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations. Such events have challenged both the ability of science to explain and the belief of society in a world that humans have always considered unique and special. But the biggest question remains: are we ready to face the reality that Rendlesham Forest and the events that followed have shown? Space exploration, spaceflight without limits. Since the 1960s, when humans first set foot on the moon, space science has made constant progress. But until now, spaceflight has not only been limited to the human eye, but also opened up a wider future, where humans are not only observers, but also true space explorers. In the years following the Rendlesham incident, there were many UFO incidents that occurred in parallel with the International Space Program, creating a strange connection between human space exploration and unidentified flying objects. In fact, even after the Rendlesham events, a number of astronauts revealed stories of seeing UFOs while on space missions. There is even unofficial information that the strange signals that humans have received from space may not be a natural phenomenon, but may be signs of communication from extraterrestrial civilizations. Are we ready for contact? Although humans have achieved incredible achievements in science and technology, are we ready to face the truth about aliens? Rendlesham Forest is a powerful reminder that what we perceive of this world is only a small part of the vast universe. Witnessing the strange events that occurred at Rendlesham, many people have had to question our ability to deal with beings with technology far beyond our own. With the development of technology, the ability to access space more widely, humans may be standing on the threshold of a new era, the era of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. But are we prepared for this encounter? Are our social systems, beliefs, and psychological limitations enough to face a universe full of mysteries and strange entities that we cannot fully understand? A question that has been on many people's minds is, will real contact happen when humans have developed to the point of being able to communicate with aliens? Or will we always be on the sidelines, observing without being able to participate in a larger cosmic connection? Government silence. Is it a strategy? Looking back at the government's actions regarding the Rendlesham incident, one cannot help but question the silence they have maintained. Despite the overwhelming evidence and testimony gathered during the event, the government and military have maintained an eerie silence around the truth. So what does this mean? Do the government and military know about the existence of aliens? And are they engaging in a strategy of information control? Or are they hiding the truth for other reasons, such as protecting national security or keeping the public from panicking? Some researchers believe that the silence may have been a strategy to prepare for official contact, allowing the government to mentally prepare humanity before the truth is revealed. For some, however, the government silence only adds to the skepticism and fascination with the mysteries left behind by Rendlesham and other UFO incidents. Is the government waiting for the right moment to acknowledge the existence of aliens? Or are they truly clueless about what's going on? Rendlesham Forest and the mysteries of the universe. Are we approaching a meeting point? Today, scientists and ufologists continue to explore and analyze the strange phenomena left behind by Rendlesham Forest. But the bigger question remains unanswered. Is Rendlesham the beginning of a new era of contact between humans and alien civilizations? Some researchers believe that Rendlesham may be one of the most important events in exploring our connection to the universe. Unidentified flying objects, UFOs, are not just the stuff of mystery or science fiction, but are real signs of something much bigger, a long journey that has brought humanity closer to extraterrestrial encounters. The UFO events after Rendlesham have heightened the curiosity and excitement of scientists and the public. And while some remain skeptical, the witnesses to this event, people like Jim Penniston, John Burroughs, and Charles Hall, continue to prove that there is something we do not understand about this universe. So are we ready? Perhaps the answer will not come in a day or an hour. However, Rendlesham Forest will always be a sign of something bigger, and the path we will travel on it is only just beginning. Looking to the future, as humans enter the space age, after all the mysteries, unexplained evidence, and dramatic stories surrounding the Rendlesham Forest Incident, we now look not only back to the past, but also to a future full of promise and challenge. Is this event a wake-up call, reminding humanity that we are not the only creatures in the universe? Or is it just a temporary moment, a flaw in the theories we continue to build? In recent years, the rapid advancement of space technology and UFO research have further increased curiosity and hope about the possibility of communicating with extraterrestrial civilizations. NASA and other space agencies have begun to recognize strange phenomena, not just errors of equipment, but signs of alien life. Space exploration, from Rendlesham to Space Mission Space. The Rendlesham incident is not the only one in a long line of UFO sightings recorded over the past century. Spaceflight, from Soviet experiments to NASA's ambitious missions, seems to be accompanied by strange phenomena that humans cannot explain. However, while the astronauts of a space program continue to expand the boundaries of the cosmos, stories of extraterrestrial entities are becoming more profound. Today, with space telescopes and radio signals being picked up, we can see that the possibility of communication between civilizations may no longer be a far-fetched dream. Furthermore, physical evidence, such as Mars missions, alien satellites, and even signs of microbial life on distant planets, also seem to confirm that an extraterrestrial civilization may be monitoring or interacting with us. Technological advancement, the key to unlocking the secrets of a universe. With the rapid development of artificial intelligence and theoretical physics, we may be about to enter a new era where questions about extraterrestrial life are no longer hypothetical. International space stations, flights to Mars, and programs to search for extraterrestrial objects are bringing humans closer and closer to answering the question, can we meet aliens? However, space exploration is not simply a scientific journey. It is also a process of self-awareness, when humans must accept their place in this vast universe. Humans may be standing on the threshold of a new world, where communication with alien civilizations is not only possible, but part of the common evolution of humanity. Unanswered questions. Are we ready? Despite the overwhelming evidence and astronauts from major space programs admitting to having seen aliens during their flights, the question remains, are we really ready for encounter? It all seems so new, so strange, and so shocking to the minds of a humanity that has only just begun to explore the cosmos. From incidents like Rendlesham Forest to the later recorded UFO flights, we must face an undeniable truth. We are not ready to face the truth of the universe. Our social systems, scientific theories, and religious beliefs may be put to the test if contact with aliens becomes a reality. 4. The future of humanity towards the age of contact. But what if, one day in the not-too-distant future, extraterrestrial objects are no longer a mystery, but part of our reality? Humans may be faced with a new world, a space age in which contact with extraterrestrial beings becomes the norm. Can we acknowledge the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations without changing the way we understand the universe and our place in it? And can we integrate into a larger universe without losing the fundamental values that humanity has worked so hard to build over millennia? These are questions that no one can answer with certainty. However, the Rendlesham Forest Incident is an important turning point, a sign that this larger universe has always been around us, just waiting for us to accept it and prepare for what is to come. Conclusion. Despite the skepticism and silence surrounding the Rendlesham Forest case, one thing is undeniable. We are entering a new era, an era of space exploration, where questions about extraterrestrial life are no longer just the stuff of science fiction, but may be part of our near-future reality. And when that moment comes, will we be ready to accept the truth, or will we be bystanders, only observing and skeptical about the great secrets that this universe is hiding?